started because I want to respect your time. I know Nora has a whole hour of plans for us. So I am Christy Belt-Grossman. I think I know many of you. For those of you who I don't know, I am the CEO and founder of Ops Boss Coaching. We are the premier coaching company for operations people nationwide, worldwide, I would say, actually, because I know we have Canada and we teach in North America and we have some people from Paris, my favorite place sometimes.
Sorry, Christy.
That's okay. We'll mute you and unmute me. I know we have people on the call today who are also maybe family and friends. I know on the last call, my daughter was on the call, my husband was on the call, because I think this material is so important. So before we get to that, you know who I am. My background is 23 years on one of the nation's top real estate teams. I'm super passionate about those people on the operations side of the business, the wizards behind the screen, or the ops bosses as we call them. And no matter whether you are an ops boss, a team owner, a real estate agent, a nurse, a teacher, I don't care what you are. I think this material is super powerful and I'm excited. We got the first taste of it at the end of last year, which is all the ahas about, oh my gosh, how distracted we are, and how my takeaway was how much I distract myself. I like to think other people distract me, but I really distract myself more than others distract me. So I went back to Nora and said, we need more and we need some tools. And I know some of you who are on here have been to our annual retreat before, and I want to share with you, you guys are like the first ones to know, that Nora's going to be one of the speakers at our annual Ops Boss Leader Retreat in October. And fingers crossed, please pray for the state of Virginia and Governor Northam that we continue to open up post-COVID. We're hoping to put our tickets on sale for the retreat later this month. So stay tuned for that, and I'm excited about Nora. For those of you who don't know what the Ops Boss Leader Retreat is, it's for the operations people in real estate as well as transaction company owners. And it is a weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, where people fly in from all around the country. We get together with like-minded people. We have a little bit of personal growth, a little bit of social, a little bit of business growth, and it's a really fun weekend where you can go back and take action. And I'm going to give you some information. I asked Nora to remind me halfway through the call. I'm not going to give it to you now, but before we get to the end of the call, I asked Nora if she would put together a boot camp that you can sign up for without having to have your whole team sign up for. So she's doing a special thing for us later, and I'll give you info about that. And then I got a couple private messages from people asking about our classes. So we have a Be a Boss 10 Secrets of a Mega EA class, May 19th and 20th. You can find the info on our website, opsbosscoaching.com. And then Stephanie Brackett, who many of you know as the Ultimate Systems Queen, is teaching Systems Are Sexy, June 24th and 25th. And now that I think we've got everybody on the call, I am going to introduce you to Nora, who I think many of you guys know from last time. But I had the privilege of being on a panel last year, and Nora was the keynote speaker. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. You guys, I need this for all of our clients. So let me just give you her official bio and background before we get started. So Nora is in, are you guys in, you're in Manhattan, right? Physically? Yep, all right. So Nora is in the heart of the country in Manhattan. She is the CEO of Simpson Strategic Solutions, a business strategy firm that offers a neuroscience-based approach to create radical breakthroughs in revenue, profit, productivity, and fulfillment. Now, I want you guys to know that Nora has spoken to places like Columbia Business School, Merrill Lynch, the CEO Trust, the CEO Club of America, and she's doing this just for our Ops Boss community today, so I'm super excited. She's helped more than 500 companies in 80 different industries, over 20,000 individuals to address business development, sales, strategy, operations, financial systems, succession planning, all kinds of stuff, you guys. But the reason why I invited her here is because we're in this real estate industry where we have information coming at us, texts and Slack and email and phone and voicemail, and now we have our kids, and Nora's got little ones at home, so don't be surprised if her kids come in and we're like, holy crap, what do we do with all of this? So with all of that being said, Nora, I'm going to thank you for being with us and invite you to take us away into the world of distraction and the tools that we need. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. I'm super, super excited to be here. Let's see. I'm going to share my screen. So I know that a lot of you were part of the fun we did in December. So I'm really excited that you came back. Thank you so much. And I'm going to just run through like 2 minutes of a recap for everybody, just to kind of land you in this world. And then we're going to talk about the tools you need. Does that sound good? Thumbs up? Yeah.
It sounds good. For some reason, your voice is fading in and out, and we're hearing the clicks. You guys bear with us, and we're going to try to go through it. We don't have the Zoom set up properly, so she can connect through her phone. So my bad.
I'm a high D, so I'm just like, whatever gets us to functional, you know?
Yeah.
Like we're functioning well enough, you know, we'll get there. I'm not worried.
Yeah, it's your mouse clicks that we're hearing for some reason, but I don't think we can do anything about it. We'll do it. You guys just need to come to the retreat and get the rest of it. Not planned. Let's go with how we can do.
Go with what we got. So reactivity coded into the human brain. Okay, we talked about this last time, that the human survival response drives crisis and problems to the forefront that make us want to go right to whatever the scariest, most urgent thing appears to be. Sometimes that's just the loudest voice. It's not necessarily the most important, right? And reactivity tends to be contagious. So even if you hire someone who's going to come in, like maybe Christy interviewed them personally, and they're like, oh, and Christy comes to you and she's like, oh, listen, this person is so proactive and such a project management guru, like you're going to love having them. If that person gets absorbed into an environment that isn't willing to change, right? That person is going to catch the contagion of reactivity faster than be able to, then that person, you know, is going to be able to bring order to the chaos. You know, if people are like, this is just the way it is, we can't do anything about it, right? So, you know, we really want to have a lot of compassion for all of the people who get sucked into distraction and all that, because it's everywhere right now. And we talked about how basically it started in the late 90s, early 00s. We're now up to losing about 4 to 6 hours per person per day. Maybe you guys remember that from last time. We talked about different research by different experts. The guess that we have now is that people are interrupted every 4 to 5 minutes. Research out of some of the top universities as recently as 10 years ago was that we're interrupted every 7 to 8 minutes. But I believe that interruption window has shrunk. So we've got more interruptions than ever before, even though what I give you is what the research tells us, right? So we get these interruptions every 7 to 8 minutes. Interruption recovery time is, you know, approximately 30 to 34 minutes. There's a 30% chance we won't resume the task that day at all. Oy vey, right? Even tiny interruptions that don't pull us out of our work sphere, right? Slow us down and make our world, make our tasks take more time. So one 2.8 second interruption will double our error rates. One 4.4 second interruption will triple our error rates, right? Maybe you guys remember the smartphone study we talked about, right? With the smartphone off on the table as the undergraduate is taking the working memory test and the problem solving test. And everyone in the experiment had their smartphones off, right? No dings, no lights, nothing. But the people with the smartphones turned off on the desk had measurably lower scores on problem solving and working memory tests than the people with their smartphones off and in a bag, and even lower scores than the people with their smartphones off and in the other room, right? So, and the kicker of that study, I just have to bring it up, is that the participants were all given, you know, surveys about were they performing at their highest cognitive level. There were no statistical differences across the self-report of highest cognitive level. So it's truly, truly unconscious, right? The way that not just the experience of distraction is stealing our time and our focus and our ability to really work effectively, but just the existence of reminders of distraction has compromised our ability to engage at our deepest levels of thinking and productivity. You probably also remember I talked about the dopamine feedback loop, right? The dopamine feedback loop is the same process in the brain that drives heroin cravings for heroin addicts, right? And has anybody here, quick show of hands, has anybody here seen the Netflix documentary, The Social Dilemma? Quick show of hands, or say something in chat.
Let me just interject here really
please.
quickly while people are commenting in the chat. Nora's recapping. I asked her to recap in like 5 minutes or flat what we talked about for a whole hour. If you missed the first one, that's totally okay. Just go to our YouTube channel for Ops Boss Coaching and you'll find it, and it actually doesn't have the sound problems we're having here. If you're just joining us, thank you for your patience. We have storms on the East Coast, and I also set up the Zoom with the wrong settings, so we have a little bit of sound issues, but thank you for sticking with us. Go ahead, Nora. I interrupted you.
I'm not sure if these headphones are making a difference or not. I just saw someone making a suggestion for headphones. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't even think of the headphones thing, but I do have headphones in the house and I can run and get them. It's just going to be...
No, I think this is good. Let's roll with it.
Let's go with what we have. Okay. All right. Amanda likes it. Just stay still. So just to remind you, the dopamine feedback loop generates urges that drive us to seek more distraction, right? When we resist those urges, our brain actually creates this negative response, this response of cortisol, this response of adrenaline, and the cortisol and the adrenaline drive us to believe that we are in pain and we need help, right? So that's a recap of what we kind of already covered. And now we're going to dive into tools. Okay, so the first tool is to make a time plan. And actually, I deleted this slide because I was like, oh, they don't need this from last time. They don't need that from last time. But I just realized it's probably useful to tell you that I have a personal story of this, that I got fired from 3 jobs in 6 months in 2006. And I had to figure this stuff out back in 2006 when I was losing 4 to 6 hours per day to distractions and the recovery time that distractions require, when everybody else was only losing like 1 or 2 hours a day, right? So I was lucky that I was a trendsetter, and it took a lot of pain and a lot of work and a lot of like going to like wacky weirdo places. But you know, this is like, I have a personal story. Like, I'm not just the president of the club, I'm also a member. But it's now become this really sexy thing that people are talking about quite a bit. There's a lot of books about it. We'll talk about those in a second. So the simplest answer to solving all this is to make a time plan. We create a planned approach to our work tasks. We make the most of batch processing, right? Work always moves faster without interruptions or task switching, right? We want to access flow state, right? Flow state is not just focused, not just faster, not just more efficient for the brain, it's also more pleasurable, right? So we want you to discover that pretty much every task in the world can actually be pleasurable once you achieve flow state, once you're in there, right? So I'm just going to go through a few sample time plans that I offer in these different boot camps that I lead and the team boot camps that I do. Anybody who signs up for the Ops Boss Special Edition boot camp that we're going to hold, anybody who does that, you're going to look at these time plans and you're going to either pick one of them or adapt one of them, right? So this is a traditional time plan. This is the moment when everybody holds up their cell phone, takes a little picture, right? Or like presses print screen, right? This is the traditional time plan. This is the high responsiveness time plan for the people who say, you know, oh, I can't possibly go 2 hours without responding to a client text or a client phone call, right? That kind of thing. And then the COVID working parent time plan, I actually created this last year for a client whose kid was doing the majority of his virtual schooling from like 8 to 11. And that was, those were the hardest moments because he was in the group Zooms. And then in the afternoon, he had one-on-one stuff with different teachers. So it was a little easier. So we had to kind of figure out, okay, so how are we going to make this work? How are we going to give her access to a functional workday and have her, be, putting her kid through 2nd grade virtually, et cetera, right? But the problem with time plans is that they're going to fail. The time plan, the time plan industry, like the Time Bandit and A World Without Email and Deep Work, these books are the new diet books. Who here has ever been on a diet? Has anybody ever been on a diet? What do you know for sure about a diet? You're going to break your diet. That's what you know for sure, right? A diet it sets you up to fail. You're like, oh, I'm at a birthday party. I need to eat some chocolate cake. And there's actually joy, right? There's actually like a beautiful experience of defiance, right? Joyful, taking back control of my life because I say so. So there, Sugar Busters doctor, or South Beach diet, or whatever those diets were. God, there's so many of them. So there, cabbage soup, right? I'm having my chocolate cake. And your brain wants you to do that. And most people that I do these boot camps for are not uneducated folks, right? They are curious, engaged leaders who are constantly looking for great ideas and great strategies, who are always reading the next interesting business book, the next interesting piece of advice, right? So a lot of them have read these advice books already before they ever do one of my boot camps, right? And they say, you know, I try it and it works for a day or it works for a week. And then somehow I don't know, I get out of the habit. Sound familiar? A little bit? Okay, so your brain is lying to you and it tricks you into breaking your time plan, right? Just like it tricks you into breaking a diet. Why does your brain lie? Because it thinks those distractions are protecting you from threats, basically. There's a lot more neuroscience to it, and you guys know I love the neuroscience piece, but we only have an hour. And it's wrong, and it doesn't know it's wrong. So, like, one thing I know for sure about all of you, right, is that all of you are human, right? And all of you are wrong sometimes. Like, I know that for a fact. I also know that most of you don't know every single time that you're wrong. No, wait, every single one of you doesn't know every single time that you're wrong, including me, right? Not just the president of the club, also a member. So we're going to talk about how sabotage unfolds for each of the groups of people that are on your team, right? And I'm going to use the DISC profile because I know a lot of you know DISC, but I actually use a neuroscience-based framework that I developed, very much inspired by DISC. It uses the exact same categories. It just allows everybody to understand what's actually happening in the brain. Not too scientific-y, more kind of like pop psychology style, but to really help you understand what your brain prioritizes when it turns on focus on one area and turns off focus in other areas. When you turn on focus in one area and you turn off focus in other areas, which is part of life, right? All of us do this, right? Whether you're having a spike in your D, your I, your S, or your C, right? You will have things you miss in the areas where your focus is turned off. Does this make sense? Yeah? Okay. So the high C, anybody high C here? Anybody like very detail oriented? Yes, yes, you love the perfection, right? The high C, I call that analytical processing. And when your brain is processing from its analytical mode, right? It, you know, inside when your talents are context appropriate and you're feeling safe, you are really useful to have around. You're curious, you're deliberate, you're reflective, you're conscientious, you're good at assessing risk, you're attentive to detail, right? When you're operating from fear, or you think things, you think this is the appropriate response, but for some reason your talents are not responding well to the context, which is something that happens to all of us, right? You're going to show up to other people as perfectionistic, obsessive, neurotic, rationalizing, judgy, and arrogant. And nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I really want to be as perfectionistic as possible today. Like, that's my goal, right? Nobody says that. But this is what happens for us in the brain, right? For your high S folks, your relational spikers, strengths, generosity, patience, care, loyalty, obstacles, neediness, passivity, risk aversion, right? You guys have seen these lists before, right? This is not news to you if you've seen DISC profile, right? You guys know high D, right? I'm a high D. I'm actually a high D, high I. So rigorous, disciplined, determined, healthy competition. Other people in my life think I'm a controlling, stubborn, domineering, obnoxious, B-I-C-C-H. But I'm not. I'm so empathetic. And of course, our high I's, who are visionaries, right? The conceptual spikers. The creativity, the influence, the enthusiasm, the persuasion, the poise, the charm. right? These folks are going to have the escapism, the fantasy, the grandiosity when the fear and the context inappropriateness shows up. So let's talk about how you will struggle to implement this time plan when you try to do it on your own. For the analytical spiker, also known as the high C, you'll need to do it perfectly. And when you're not doing it perfectly, you'll give up. How often do you think these time plans unfold perfectly? Not so good, right? 0% of the time. For the relational spiker, or the high S, they will be so afraid of disappointing the people who they believe expect rapid responses that they won't be able to resist, right? They'll get worried that people are feeling lonely and abandoned, and they'll give up on their time plans within a couple of days, usually even less, usually a couple of hours. The high D folks, raise your hand if you're a high D. Do I have any high Ds? Yeah. Love you, high Ds. High D folks, you'll actually do your time plan the longest. But I've got really bad news for you. Now, Christy, you're a very special high D. Not everybody is as awesome as you are. For my high Ds, do you guys ever get told you're not empathetic or patient enough? Yeah, of course you do, right? This thing where you're doing your time plan and everybody else isn't, or just you're doing your time plan and other people are creating little interruptions or little ways that your time plan isn't able to be perfect or isn't able to unfold the way you want it to, it will magnify the things that people already find annoying about you. So it actually magnifies your obstacles and your weaknesses just as much as everyone else's. Right? And I actually have given various talks on this topic where I've had people during like the question and answer period, and by the way, feel free to ask questions at any time, right? Love questions, love engagement. I've actually had people raise their hands and be like, you know, there is this one guy and he read this book. And then once he read this book, we all started getting these auto reply emails from him like 6 times a day, right? Saying like, I only check my email at 4:30 p.m. and you can expect a response then. And then at 4:30 p.m., he starts replying to a thread that has 12 emails. And he's replying too early, so he doesn't know that 3 of the 5 issues have already been resolved. So he just wastes all of our time, and we kind of all hate him now. So the structural spikers or the high Ds, like your problem is not focus, even though every high D wants more focus, right? Every high D wants more efficiency. Your biggest problem, and I say this with all the love because I'm like this too, is that people hate you and you don't know it. This will make them hate you more. Right? Last thing I want to do is give you a time plan that makes more people hate you. Right? Because that's the issue that structural spikers struggle with to begin with. And then the conceptual spikers, they just don't even do it. They're like, this sounds amazing. I'm so excited. They just, you know, procrastinate, whatever. Like, oh, I got so busy with this like really exciting other thing. It's so great. They just don't even know. And they feel no guilt about it. At least the analyticals and the relationals feel guilt. The conceptual spikers feel no guilt, right? They're like, it's just not terribly inspiring, right? Because it's just like, it's so like prescriptive. It's so small. I got really excited about this other thing. It was so fun. Anyway, yeah. I know we're on focus time, but can I just call you? I have this really wonderful news for you. It's so exciting, right? No patience, right? No respect for rules, right? Okay, so I think I put the slide in later, but I feel like now is the time. Christy, should we ask them if they're getting value now? If they're not getting value, I want to know.
So, yeah, I think our only challenge is probably the sound issue, which is coming in and out, but we're all making the best of it. I asked her to remind me before we get to the end, if you are interested in the boot camp that she's going to do, normally Nora does a boot camp for your whole real estate team, your whole business, and you're like, oh, I got to get 20 people on board or 10 people to agree to do this. And I'm like, well, what if they want to just do it and they don't want to wait for their team? Can you do something? So she is arranging a boot camp. She'll talk more about it at the very end. But if that sounds like something you want to know more about, I want you guys to take out your phone right now. It's officially not a distraction. and email her. Nora, what's your email, and can you put it in the chat?
Unfortunately, I think the headphones aren't helping.
Okay, well, I'll put it in there, or one of my people will. What's your email address? You're putting it in there. And I want you, all you need to do is email her and just write boot camp in the title. BOOTCAMP. There we go. Nora@simpsonstrategic.com. And we'll talk more about it later because I want to hear about the distraction part. But do that now so we don't forget. Thank you for reminding me, Nora.
All good. Okay, so I only have like 29 minutes, and I really want to hear you guys engage, and I really want you guys, I hope the audio is better now. I think the moving around with the headphones, I can't help it. I'm such a active person. This is what happens to me. So the first thing we have to do is we have to break through the lying that your brain does all day, every day. I know that sounds crazy, but it's totally possible. So the first thing we do is we teach you to break through the lying, because here's what the lying sounds like, right? The lying sounds like, oh, that thing over there, it's a problem, right? Or, oh, that way that someone is disappointed in me, or that way that I've got a wrong answer, it's a problem. And we actually get to teach your brain to say, hold up, if there's a problem, let me first check in and see where my comfort level is or my discomfort level. It's literally as simple as asking your head to toe self, am I comfortable or uncomfortable right now? Now, when I first introduce this idea to people, they think it's super kindergarten level, right? They're like, this is so dorky. Is she really saying that I have to stop in the middle of being annoyed or frustrated and just say, am I comfortable or uncomfortable right now? Is it that simple? Yes, it's that simple, but it's not easy. A. B, the other thing is, when you are hijacked by your fight or flight mechanism, by your rushes in cortisol and adrenaline, by your dopamine feedback loop, it's almost impossible to stop and take this pause, which is why I train people to do it throughout the day when they're not hijacked. If you have muscle memory around doing it when you're not hijacked, it becomes much more accessible when you are hijacked. From there are many more choices available to you. If we have time, I will lead you through a comfortable, uncomfortable game practice, but I want to get through a bunch of other pieces first, okay? So what I want you guys to understand is that actually moving from this reactivity contagion, right, is not easy, it's not obvious, and it's not intuitive, no matter how good your time plan is. And it is totally achievable if you have the right tools. And the reason that I'm putting on this boot camp for the Ops Boss Special Edition is that I actually have faith that you guys are capable of learning the tools from me and then bringing them back to your teams without convincing every single person on your team that they have to buy into Nora. I believe that you guys are smart enough, influential enough, and capable enough to be the change that you want to see on the whole team. Here's how it looks. The ingredients for business functionality correspond perfectly to what I call the 4 processing modes and what everybody else calls the 4 elements of DISC. Those ingredients are clarity, support, structure, and vision. This is like the most inspiring thing about human life for me personally, is that we are, we have evolved. Some of us with more spiritual bent might even say we are designed to function best as a tribe that embraces the gifts of every single person. Right? So wherever you spike, whether you're more D than I, more S than C, wherever you are, your gifts are absolutely essential for this combination, this good enough balance of what I call clarity, support, structure, and vision. And here, I've just translated my terminology into the terminology you already know, right? The DISC. Again, feel free to click with your print screen or your phone right now, right? I know you're all going, oh, I hope you're doing that. just so you know, these are also the ingredients for healthy childhood development. They're also the ingredients for every tribal accomplishment from the very beginning of Homo sapien history up to the present moment. It's not just business. It's not just family. It's every single piece of human life. And in point of fact, oftentimes people come to me for the stuff in business, and then they end up hiring me to do like special units with just their families or their teenagers or whatever, because once we have this framework, it gives us a positive solution-oriented way to improve communication and collaboration in any context, including with a bunch of crazy teenagers. I'm not going to go into this super, super deeply right now. I just want to give you a sense that all problems are made of the opposites of these 4 good things, this clarity, support, structure, vision, right? All problems are made of the opposites. The most basic opposites to look for are lack of information and discomfort, also known as fear, which I believe is just an experience of lack of support. When we feel appropriately supported, we actually have the courage to do almost anything and try almost anything. Having courage isn't enough, right? If we have the courage to, take the wrong medication for a sickness, that doesn't really get us very far. We have to have accurate information. And there's very particular definitions of how to bring clarity where we have lack of information, or what I call vagueness, and how to bring support to where we have fear or lack of support, right? For me, clarity does not exist if things aren't written down. It also doesn't exist if things are written down, but they are not based in integrity. Right? So people have asked me, like, would this work? Would your system work for like the mafia? And unfortunately, it wouldn't work for the mafia, because if part of your job is to break laws, and steal and stuff and threaten people, like, no, like I wish I could say it can work for anyone, anywhere, but it won't work for the mafia. Okay. Another plug, email bootcamp to nora@simpsonstrategic.com. Now, where a lot of folks get tripped up is they say, okay, I've got all this information. My team is filled with nice people. We've gotten rid of all the jerks. And yet we're still a little stuck, right? And usually where that shows up is in the quality of your structures and the pairing of your structures with a really workable vision. Now, Christy is actually a master of structure building, right? Systems are sexy, all of that wonderful stuff. Christy, I'm like your fangirl over here, right?
Yeah, well, that would be Stephanie Brackett, and that's why we have a team.
I love it, absolutely. So that structure and that vision is really, really crucial as well. And so if you think clarity, support, structure, vision has these really particular definitions, we can get any team, if they just have access to enough of this understanding, we can get any team to start taking on these tools to begin to align around supporting each other, around setting the boundaries with these time plans. So just to recap a little bit, with neuroscience-based tools, we map behavior onto the survival machine. We look at how brains process safety and threat differently in each processing mode. And then we build a path of clarity, support, structure, and vision to achieve these outstanding results. I do this every time I work with people, whether it's on distractions and interruptions and focus, or other issues like becoming really influential at sales, or becoming more collaborative as a team and less nitpicky and weird and nasty to each other, etc. So this is what it looks like as we move from the comfort zone, which isn't always so pleasant, to this vision of being capable of actually like doing the time plan and really engaging with it. And what we try to create is an adventure, an experience of adventure, exhilaration, and gratitude as we're moving forward in this combination of clarity, support, structure, and vision. One of the things that we find as we do this work is that it really, really helps to understand what your brain is doing to sabotage you, And then because of the way that we structure the boot camps, what you're going to do inside the boot camp is you're going to get someone who understands. You're going to get another person who's going through the same boot camp, who's watching the same videos as you, who's experienced the same coaching sessions as you. You're going to get somebody to partner with you and actually be your Clarity Plus support buddy. Because just so you know, support doesn't live without personal interaction with other humans. So what we're going to do in the boot camp is we're actually going to create for you a little mini experience of a personalized tribe. The whole boot camp is going to be a tribe, and then you'll get partners and buddies to support you as well. And you're going to have a whole team of people cheering you on and helping you work through all the different ways that your brain is going to lie to you around how to get you to give up your time plan. And I don't mean for this to sound I don't mean for this to sound like an advertisement for the boot camp, but this is how I solve it for people. This is what
Nora,
I
what I'm hearing a lot of, which I'm a big fan of, is I think a lot of us who are part of teams, and I know there's people in all different businesses on this call, but many of us are on real estate teams. We live our many of us are systems people, we're ops bosses, and yet we're not purposeful in our communication system. We're communicating by default of what our brain is doing, as opposed to retraining our brain to do what we want it to do, and for the whole team to do that together. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
I love the way you just said it, Christy. That's exactly what we do. And what I find is, I just believe that it's impossible to retrain any human in a vacuum or in isolation, right? If one of you decided that you wanted to become a black belt in karate, we would never ask you to watch a bunch of YouTube videos by yourself at home and never go to a karate class, right? We would never ask you not to get mentorship from the karate teacher, and we would never ask you not to do karate practice moves with your classmates. We would never assume that we can acquire a new skill set on our own.
And yet that's what we do all the time. Like, you guys, anybody who has been to any kind of operations class, I don't care what company, we talk about time blocking, and you go back and you're like, I'm going to put this time block into, and then nobody buys in on your team. And not only do they not buy in, but I really am not buying in, but I don't know I'm not buying in because my brain's trying to trick me out of it. Right?
Well, yeah. And it is, I mean, the truth is, we're at this really funky stage in our societal history where we've got a lot of, let's just say we've got a lot of unregulated companies, right? Let's just say, like, I love corporate, I love business, but, there are certain things, there are certain chemicals that used to get put into food that are no longer allowed in food anymore, right? And I don't know exactly how, like, I'm not tech savvy enough to know exactly how Facebook needs to change their algorithm, or Twitter, or, any of these. I don't think it's going to be an internal thing at Facebook because there's too much money, right? It's too profitable to keep hold of our eyeballs and to actually reprogram us from as early as anybody will put a phone in front of their kid, they shut them up. No worries.
I wanted to ask you, because I know we're going to bump up against time, and maybe you already have this planned in here. I liked that idea of the retraining through the comfortable, uncomfortable exercise. Can you kind of walk us through, like, what is that?
Yeah, no, it's a perfect time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop screen sharing because I really want to see everybody. Before we do the comfortable, uncomfortable game, I want to do two things. Okay, Christy? The first thing I want to do is I want to just really help you guys get that you are living in a world right now that is programmed to make your brain be very inefficient. It's programmed to tell your brain to do things that are completely opposite to everything you say you want out of your lives. That's what we're living in right now, thanks to the social media companies, and thanks to the natural culture of email and texting and just the reactivity that is so addicting for all of us. It's more addicting to feel important and to feel needed than it is, to feel relief, than it is to feel You know, oh, I don't have to think about anything. Like it's actually more addicting to feel important. So it's really, really hard. I can't emphasize enough how hard it is to truly retrain your brain, but it absolutely can be done. And it can be done, oh, poor Jen. It can be done in 6 weeks. It can actually be done in 3 weeks, but I'm going to give you the tools during the 6 weeks so that you can actually teach everybody you work with. Yes, Kathy, people also need to be right and they also need to be liked. But if you feel like you're useless, you don't care how right you are. And that's what,
the addiction piece of it, the brain, the neuroscience, this was so fascinating on that first call for me, is it is every much a physical almost addiction as any other addiction that we talk about. And it's why we all hold on to not wanting to change what's happening, because it's so painful. So walk us through kind of the highlight, my high V version of the tools.
Yeah, it's your brain chemistry. It's not you. You didn't choose it. And yes, it's an addiction. Addiction just means your brain chemistry has been rewired. That's all that means. Okay? So we're going to start you right now on your journey of the comfortable, uncomfortable transformation. Okay? So I need everybody to close your eyes. Can you close your eyes for me? I'm going to keep my eyes open so I can look at you guys. So I want you to take a deep breath and just ask yourself, how do I feel right now? Do I feel comfortable? Do I feel uncomfortable? Do I feel a combination? Whatever I feel right now, it's okay, and I don't have to change it. If you're feeling uncomfortable, you don't have to change any of the discomfort. In fact, I'm going to invite you in your mind to talk to your discomfort and say these words. Hello, discomfort. Welcome. It's okay that you're here. It's okay that you're here. You don't have to change. Now, I want you to bring your attention to your feet and just notice how your feet feel. Are they a little tense? Are they a little achy? Are they a little numb? And I want you to literally talk to your feet and say, it's okay to be numb. It's okay to be achy. You don't have to change a thing. You can be exactly what you are, where you are, right here. Now I want you to bring your attention to your lower legs, your calves, your shins, and your knees. Just notice, is there any pain there? Is there any discomfort there? If there is, just say welcome. You don't have to change. Nothing has to be different right now. Now bring your attention to your thighs, your quadriceps, your hamstrings, your hips, your butt, your pelvis. Whatever's going on there, it's cool. Nothing has to change. Nothing has to move. Nothing has to be different. If you're feeling pain, say hello to it. If you're feeling achiness, say hello to it. Say hello. It's okay for you to be here. I'm not going to ask you to leave. You can just be exactly where you are. Now I want you to bring your attention to your lower back, your middle back, your spine. Tell your back you can be as achy and pain-filled as you need to be. You can have all that pain from sitting in that desk chair all day. It's totally fine. It's okay. Welcome. Glad you're here. It's okay to be there. You don't have to do anything differently. Now I want you to bring your attention to your belly, your shoulders, your arms, your neck. Just talk to your neck, move it around and say, whatever you're feeling right now, you can be exactly where you are. Nothing has to change. Hello, discomfort. If it's comfortable, hello, comfort. Whatever's there is totally fine. And finally, bring your attention to your arms, your elbows, your hands, your face, your forehead, your nose, your head, the back of your head, the top of your head, and just say, hey, I hear you. I know you're here. If I have a headache, it's okay to have a headache. Wherever the pain is, it's okay to be there. Nothing has to change. Take another deep breath and open your eyes. Anybody want to talk about it? Did you hate it?
We're small enough. Feel free to unmute if you want to talk, or feel free to type in the chat box.
So I did something similar to this a few years back with it's called energy therapy, and it basically was giving your mind the permission to relax and be okay where you're at. And I love it. I like how you did that. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Melissa.
So Christy and I had a conversation earlier today about how it's difficult to go from negative thinking or discomfort directly to positive thinking or comfort, and that you have to pass through neutral to get there. And that's what this is being okay with the discomfort to get to a neutral place first.
I would offer you that it's actually even more, what I think of it is like radical embrace. Like radical, like weird, like, yes, it's true. There's like meditation and yoga and energy therapy. There's a lot of really fantastic spiritual disciplines that do exactly this, or that attempt to. It depends on the language. Sometimes I think that they try to get to this and they don't always get everybody there, because I can't tell you how many times I've talked to people who are like, I try so hard to meditate and I just can't.
That was my brain fighting the whole time you were talking, because I'm dealing with, as you know, I'm dealing with concussion and a traumatic brain injury recovery. So when you're telling me to say, hello, headache, welcome, I'm like, hello, headache, get the heck out of here.
No.
But by the time I got to the end of where you were, I could physically feel my body relaxing.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like, I hate, like I get triggered when people are like, clear your mind. I'm like, if I could clear my mind, why would I be in this class? Right? Like, do you know how much is going on in my mind minute by minute? Right? So, and that's what I sound like when I'm not playing the comfortable, uncomfortable game. Right? So I believe that the path to all of this is radical embrace of wherever we're at. Like radical, and Christy, it is hard, right? Because I think the magic of the traumatic brain injury is that it was it was like you were on like a highway and you got thrown into a forest, and you didn't sign up for that. You didn't ask to get thrown into a forest. So all these people telling you like, appreciate the trees. You're like, but I was driving. I was worried about gasoline and flat tires, not poison ivy. Why are we here? Right? So it feels like you didn't choose it. And that's what traumas are, right? They're things we didn't choose, right? And it's been a very traumatizing year for most people, right? For many, many reasons, right? So the radical embrace of the core human experience, That's where we can find meaning and purpose and transformation in very small but effective doses, I find. That clarity, support, structure, vision. We can make business this oasis, this place where we actually have access to a small, one piece at a time experience of valuing the human experience exactly as it is. Because business didn't happen by accident, right? It's a natural outgrowth of our human needs, kind of transmogrified into our very strange modern society that's completely foreign to our bodies. Our bodies were born thinking that we would be, hunting and gathering, right? But there's so much technological transformation that's happened in the last 200 years that we just, our bodies need a different way to engage in the feelings of transcendence, the feelings of purpose, the feelings of structure, sequences that lead to sequences that lead to food, water, shelter, right? That's the structural spiker. The structural spiker is the headhunter of the group, right? The structural spiker is the person who plans out the agriculture for the year, for the tribe, right? But we don't have to grow our own food anymore, right? So I believe business and family are the two places where we're still trying to have the expression of our true humanity. And that's why the science of the brain and the science of the evolution of the brain can actually bring us enormous joy and fulfillment inside business and family. Can it also do it on a sports team? Can it also do it in a church community? Sure. Great. Right? It can do it in any group of humans. But, you're not going to get a day off from needing to put food on the table, even though you should take vacations, right? But you're not going to get a day off from needing to earn money, and you're not going to get a day off from needing to be, the mom, the dad, the wife, the husband, the aunt, the uncle, whoever you are to other people. You're not going to get a day off from that. You can take a vacation, but you were born into this social tapestry.
So as we, forgive my high D, but we only have 2 minutes left. And
I know. I'm
will stay
too
on
high-ish.
if we
I
have
apologize.
questions. But so we go through the comfortable, uncomfortable. Now I'm doing this when I'm comfortable. I'm getting awareness around what that feels like. Now I start moving into asking myself comfortable, uncomfortable. When I'm in the uncomfortable, then what?
So then you guys may remember I talked a lot about the 3-minute bridge.
I didn't hear you.
The 3-minute bridge.
Oh, yes.
Right? So then part of the magic of all of these time plans is if you can tolerate the torture it takes. There's a torture section between I made my time plan and now I have to do the thing I said I would do for 2 hours, right? The torture is going to be for 3 minutes. It's called the 3-minute bridge. And once you've been practicing the comfortable, uncomfortable game, you'll go, oh, okay, it's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay to be uncomfortable. This is the torture Nora said would happen, right? And so you get your 3-minute bridge of discomfort. And then by the end of 3 minutes, you will have dropped into this thing called flow state that's actually really pleasurable.
So I want to share with you, if you guys don't know what we're talking about with 3-minute bridge, go back to the first video and she talks us through it. But I know a number of you were on the first call. Did any of you try the 3-minute bridge? I will tell you that I have taken that tool because in my concussion recovery, I have to sleep better. It's more important for me to get sleep. And I am not a great sleeper. I am on my phone right up until I go to bed. And I'm messaging Stefan, hey, Stefan, how are you? Whatever. I have now gotten to that phone's gone. And the first couple weeks was I'm dying. I have to go grab that phone before the end of the 3 minutes. But now once I gritted through the 3 minutes, I can go to sleep faster. And that has completely changed my concussion recovery. So I wondered if any of you guys have tried that 3-minute bridge, if you've had success with that.
Kathy's like, no. the thing to remember about the 3-minute bridge, guys, is that it gets shorter the more you use it. So when I first was discovering these tools, back when I like could not afford to get fired from another job, right? I used that 3-minute bridge something like 6 or 7 times a day, every day for weeks. Within a month, it was a 1-minute bridge. Within 6 months, it was a 30-second bridge. I was unrecognizable to myself, right? Little Miss Squirrel, Squirrel, right? Like people thought I was so focused and calm. I was like, who did I? It also, the other thing about the 3-minute bridge that most people don't know is that if you do interrupt before you've gotten to flow state, the clock restarts. So that's why we torture ourselves for years not knowing that all it takes is 3 minutes to access a few hours of a delicious flow state. And then, you know, life comes in, etc. But most of us, unfortunately, as the discomfort bubbles up, most of us just don't have a lot of tools, right? And so we just pick up the thing that all of the tech companies have trained us to pick up. You know, we don't smoke anymore, right? Everybody's going vegan. I'm not a vegan, but like, I feel like everybody's got all their like food virtues, right? They're like, oh, I gave up this, I gave up that, right? We're giving up all the give ups, right? But this is the thing that that's like, it's the drug we're allowed to use now. So go ahead, Christy.
I want to be respectful of people's time. I know that we bumped up against 4 o'clock, and I really appreciate you guys sticking with us through our tough technology today. I feel like it got a little better as we went on. Nora, do you have a few minutes to stay if people have
Yes,
more
I can
questions?
stay.
And
Yeah.
I just want to acknowledge if you have, I know you're ops boss, many of you are ops bosses and you're looking at your calendar. So thank you for being with us. If you want to stay and ask questions, go ahead and type them in the chat. And then we'll let Nora wrap up.
Sounds great. Thank you guys so much. Please email nora@simpsonstrategic.com with boot camp if you want to change your life forever. And if you want case studies or testimonials or referrals or references, excuse me, I'm happy to provide those. I've provided this training for literally thousands of people. So, you know, you should do your research on me, right?
No,
Like,
I'm actually really excited about it because I had a lot of people reach out to me last time saying, I really need this, and yet my team is not ready to embrace it. So I think if I can come do it and learn the tools, then I can go back to them and help my whole team. So thank you for accommodating that.
I'm so excited, Christy. Like, there's not many people more awesome than Christy and Christy's friends. So
what questions do you guys have for her? Do you guys have any questions or comments? Kathy, I see you raising your hand. Kathy, talk.
Hi, Christy.
There we go.
I did. Hey, thank you so much, Nora, for doing this. And I'm very intrigued by this. I've never heard about the bridge and any of this yet. We have a constant in real estate, one thing that's plaguing everybody, and that is people need to lead gen for 2 to 3 hours, and they cannot stay on this schedule. And that's all they need to do is do that in the morning, and they will be successful. And so how can we use this technique to help our team members and agents around North America stay on the schedule?
Kathy, I love your question. And this is why whenever I do this for a team, and I'll probably end up doing this for the boot camp, I like to customize it for whoever is taking the boot camp. And just so you know, each boot camp is capped at 10 people. So if we get 20 people who want to sign up, we'll do 2 boot camps, okay? Because I don't want you guys to feel like you're not getting like a huge piece of my attention and time. Like, it's really, really important to me. Ooh, Jessica's coming in last minute. So Kathy, one of the things that I do is I actually sit down with people, and we have videos that I teach on this and coaching sessions that we have on this. And we talk about the lies our brain tells about each obstacle to sales and lead generation. So I'll give you an example. And we sift and sort with the processing modes, or as you guys would say, the disc profile, right? So we say, you know, the analytical spikers hate lead gen. Like, everybody hates lead gen for a different reason, right? The analytical spikers hate lead gen because they know that they're bothering people. right? They know that they're taking the people that they're calling away from important, urgent, like difficult life because everybody's distracted. Like they learn all this stuff from the first week of the boot camp and they're like, oh my God, everyone's losing 4 to 6 hours a day. Everyone's overwhelmed in the whole country. Well, why am I important? Like I'll just create another distraction for them, right? And they feel terrible, right? And that's actually a relational issue too, is like, there's this fear, like I'm so afraid of hurting these people who I want these people to like me. I want these people to want to buy from me, or at least want to build a relationship with me that leads to business. How do I deal with that? And we give them really particular strategies for dealing with that. One of my favorite ones is I like to create what I call the event-driven strategy. So I'll say, or like the value-driven strategy. So I'll say, don't call people to be like, hey, I'm Nora. I'm not a real estate agent, but I'll pretend I am. I'm Nora, I'm a real estate agent. I just want to remind you, I mean, we're neighbors, we hang out. Can I remind you that I'm a real estate agent? Do you know anybody who's like thinking of buying or selling? Like that's the worst phone call ever. I would not want to make any of those phone calls either, right? But saying, hey, I found this great, honestly, a lot of my clients end up booking me. They're like, I found this great overcoming distractions expert and I'm leading a Zoom with her as my featured speaker. And I thought you might want to come. Would you like to come? Right. And the object is not actually to get people to come. The object is to get people to feel honored that you thought of them. And to associate a phone call from you with value. Right. And basically I have this one analytical spiker I've worked with for years who the other thing about analytical spikers, this is one of my favorite things. When people, and this happens for everybody really, when people have something that moves quickly in business, like they go, oh my God, I called her and it turned out like, her sister was moving in the area and really needed help and needed, like whatever the accidental miracle is, right? And they go, oh my God, how can I make sure I only call people just like that? You know what? There is something to be said for zeroing in on appropriate targets, right? Like, don't call a 16-year-old and be like, are you looking to sell your house? Because 16-year-olds don't own houses, right? But there is such a thing as over planning so that you only call, the most ready, able, and willing targets, and you only call like one person every 2 weeks, right? And so I have this one analytical spiker and she always used to say, oh yeah, I just, I only want to talk to people who need someone right now. And I'm like, well, then you'll never get business, right? Or she'll say, I called 3 people at my former corporate, whatever, and none of them needed me to come in as a project management consultant. She's not even a real estate agent. None of them needed any project management help right now. So that means they'll never need me, right? And using the sales tools and the neuroscience of sales and the neuroscience of influence stuff, what she has been able to transform into is someone who goes, oh my God, I love this. I love getting in touch with all these people. I love bringing value to all these people. And just because no one has needed me so far when I've offered it 3 times or 10 times or 20 times, all that means is I haven't hit the person who needs it yet. Oh, this person will probably be it. As soon as you believe that people are waiting for your call and desperate for your help in whatever it is, you will be joyfully making those calls.
I think one of the things I found fascinating in my, of course, because I'm an ops boss, I had to do all the research ahead of time to vet Nora, and I'm very particular about who we bring on here. So I had some conversations with Kristen Francis, who had brought Nora in to do boot camp with her team, and I think doubled productivity in 2 months, something like, I forget the statistic. I'm not good with all the details, even though I'm an ops boss, so I forget the statistics. But one of the things that I found interesting was it was actually the time plan part, the tool of the time plan, which sounds so opposite what you think salespeople would ever buy into, but she was able to, because she understands how the brain works and the fight and flight and the fear and safety issue, individually coach with and coach as a group. And this kind of goes to Caitlin's question in here, in a different, come at things from a different perspective than we normally hear them, so she could actually work through the challenges, obstacles, you know, all the reasons why people say they don't want to do things, because we talk about it at this surface level and we're not really getting to the depth of why they're not doing their lead gen, or why an ops boss isn't being, it's because my daughter has mental illness and I have to be available 24/7, because what if she calls me and I miss her, the one call that might come one time.
I'm so glad you remember that story, Christy.
I do. I'm a story person. I respond to the stories. And so when I heard that, I'm like, yeah, that's the real stuff that we hear every day, but you're coming at it through a different point of view. Like for me to hear the fear and flight and safety, like I see that play out with all of our coaching clients. That's why I just thought this approach was really invaluable. So I don't know if that answers Caitlin's question too about overcoming distractions and productivity as a group. And she really works at the group buy-in, the choosing to move forward together, and the tribal aspect of doing that.
Thank you so much for saying that, Christy. I love you. Thank you. The ability to listen to each individual person's experience and each individual person's resistance. And usually their resistance isn't like, they don't call me and they're like, Nora, I'm having a lot of resistance, right? They're like, Nora, you're a quack, right? Like, Nora, I don't believe you. I kind of find you annoying, right? Like the way that the cortisol surges in their brains can be really intense, right? So it doesn't bother me at all at this point in my life, right? I'm just like, okay, yeah, well, I totally get it. I'm so sorry you hate me, but you don't hate your boss, right? So can you tell me what it is? I don't even want to make you change. I'm just wondering, is there something specific that you can't do, right? And that was that lady. She told me, you know, my daughter has had these episodes with cutting, and she's got a psychiatrist and a psychologist and a school counselor, and I really can't miss a call from anyone. I can't miss one, you know, from anyone in that sphere. I can't miss a call from my husband, her teacher, her school counselor, any of her professionals, or from her. And I said, great, can we have a setting called do not disturb except for these 6 phone numbers, right? And as soon as we put that into place, the woman had exactly 0 interruptions during her focus time, right? And it liberated her, and she wasn't worrying so much about her daughter across the day. One more piece for Kathy, and then I will go on to the other questions. Kathy, another thing that people find really, really empowering around lead gen is that one of the things I teach is that there is this whole very predictable blueprint for building trust across what I call 7 phases of human trust building. And so I teach this sales funnel piece around the 7 phases of trust building. And it's really fun to give people the space, right? To give the salespeople the ability to let people hang out in the different phases until they're ready to move ahead. And to feel as though their lead gen calls are just these lovely invitations to, like, lovingly, no pressure, move from stage 2 to stage 3. Right? Like, hey, I'm doing this thing. I was wondering if you were interested in coming. I thought it might be useful to you. That's a stage 2 to stage 3 conversation, right? And it's stages 2 through 5 where people lose all their leads, like where they don't even realize that they're missing out on opportunities, because that's where the trust gets built, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. It's when you're in the end of stage 4 and into stage 5 that suddenly people are like, oh yeah, I think I might be ready to sell, right? I think I might be ready to buy. I'm done with renting. Renting is dumb. Or my mom died and I got an inheritance, right? Whatever it is, right? Mm-hmm. It's stages, like, people understand stages 1 and 2, and they understand 5 through 7. But it's just the agents choose distraction. I call them the thief of time, the bandits. They come in, and I said, you're just giving them the key to your house. You're letting them in to steal your time, which is your money, and you're just making this choice. And it's very frustrating for somebody who wants to help them be successful. And
isn't that the same thing you experience if you've ever had a loved one with any kind of addiction?
I mean, that's the issue, is they don't choose distraction. Distraction chooses them, right?
Well,
anything that's uncomfortable, right? Anything that's uncomfortable. Like whenever you're doing something new and you don't really like, you're like, oh, like most sales training is it's going to hurt, right? That's most sales training, right? Just grit your teeth through the pain, right? My thing is it's going to hurt to give up the distractions, but I actually want you to feel massively powerful. I want you to feel like a sacred channel of value when you are having your lead gen conversations. I want you to feel like every minute people spend on the phone with you, they're thanking their higher power that you called. And that is a source of transformation for people around lead gen. Issue is without those tools around being the answer to people's prayer, they will feel like sales is painful, and to relieve their pain, they will pick up the distraction.
Excellent. Thank you.
That's why it's both, if that makes sense.
And, you know, we see the same thing on the ops side. So Kathy, you asked about your salespeople, but we see the same behavior on the operations side. I can't follow a time block because I'm an S and I don't want to disappoint somebody. So I am going to interrupt 100 times, even though I know that if I stick in my time block, I'll be more successful. But I can't, it's a brain, you have to retrain your brain, not just go, okay, tomorrow I'm going to be better at time blocking. It just doesn't work that way. So thanks for asking that question.
I did see someone asked, let's see, a gentleman, I think his name is James. James, I'm so glad you're still here. I think you're still here. Yes, you are. I see you. Feel free to turn on your camera so I can see you. He asked twice, so I know he really wants. I know he really wants this question to be answered. So I hope he can still listen. James, feel free to come off mute. I just don't know if you're listening or not. In any event, James asked oh, there he is. Okay, good. He asked. So actually, I'm confused about your question, James, because you say you have ADD. Oh, you turned on your camera. You say you have ADD, and you're definitely a procrastinator, but is this like your friend in Brazil that wants to help you with social media? Is his advice of walking for an hour a day, is that having to do with helping you with your ADD? Is that the thought?
Overall. In
everything. All of it? I didn't quite understand you. I'm sorry.
In everything.
In everything.
In my life, at all. Okay.
I have good news for you. Your friend is not wrong. Let me explain why. If you have ADD, then you have a high spike in what I call conceptual processing, also known as the high I in the DISC profile, right? When we have a strong urge towards transcendence, there are very particular ways to nurture that piece of ourselves. If we don't nurture that piece of ourselves proactively, that piece of ourselves will take over and be distracted. Just so you know, distraction and addiction both live in the conceptual processing mode. Overuse of alcohol, overuse of food, overuse of drugs, overuse of compulsive sexual behavior, right? It all lives in the conceptual processing mode. No matter how structural or analytical you are, these things make you feel good, right? And transcendence, whether we're getting them because we're motivated by fear or we're getting them because we're motivated by vision, inspiration, and purpose, right? Transcendence is a great relieving component of human experience, right? When we use it addictively, right, it becomes escapism. What your friend has recommended to you is really particular ways to access transcendence without escapism. One of the core ways to access transcendence is in nature. Nature is an inherently transcendent experience. The trees are bigger than you. The sky is bigger than you. The soil, the water in the stream, right? These things are so natural to our human joy, right? Yes, I love Paris too. I'm an urban girl. I'm a New York girl. I love Paris too. But there's something really special, right? Assuming you're in your physical comfort zone or close enough to physical comfort, right? There's something really special and magical about being in nature. That's why your friend's suggestion is actually really useful and probably will work for you. Writing with the non-dominant hand is another way of going internal and trying to figure out what ancient software has been installed in you in your childhood, which isn't so ancient, right? But what ancient software is unconscious for you because a lot of our brain development, a lot of our perception mechanisms get installed during childhood. Childhood is like one big software programming, like codathon, right? And when I actually have 6 weeks with people, I get to teach them a little bit about how that coding unfolds from birth to about age 25, right? One of the things I'm most proud of, as you get to know me and my neuroscience geekiness, one of the things I'm most proud of is that I'm pretty sure I figured out how to reprogram synapses in the brain for adults in a way that very few other people actually know about. So that's my motivation, is to be able to give people access to reprogramming their own synapses, and maybe even other people's too, right? So the non-dominant hand exercises, I know a lot of those exercises, those are one way to get in touch with the inner software code. You know, another generation would have called this our inner child, right? I love innovation workshops. I get asked to bring innovation workshops to some big corporate groups a lot of times. When we talk innovation, we make the same, we do the same things that your friend suggested. We talk about nature, we talk about play, creativity, non-dominant hand stuff. All of innovation lives in the transcendence connection for human beings, right? All of innovation lives there. So if some big pharma company or some big food company is looking for some way to come up with new Campbell's soup flavors, right? We take them out in nature, we take them to Paris, right? We take them to restaurants they've never been to in Rome, right? We take them out of their normal and into something transcendent, right? All of those things are great and important. They're not the only things that you need. You're always going to need, you know, a good enough balance of clarity, support, structure, and transcendence/vision. But your friend or your colleague is making really good points that if you already live a lot in the conceptual spike, it will help you to nourish that conceptual part of you proactively, so that you don't go to it to escape reactively. Does that make sense, James?
Yeah, definitely.
That was
Thank you.
awesome. Thank you. Great question, James. Thank you guys so much for being with us. I want to be really respectful of Nora's time because we already went almost 25 minutes over. Nora, you're awesome. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to, those of you who are ops bosses, you'll get a little bit more of Nora at the retreat. And literally, I got messages from my coaches while we were on this call going, oh my God, Nora's coming to the retreat. I forgot I hadn't told them yet. You guys are literally the first ones to know that secret. So thank you guys so much. And don't forget to email Nora if you want more info about the boot camp. And thank you for joining us. If it was your first time on an Ops Boss webinar, we try to do these monthly for our clients, but I'm so passionate about Nora's gift to share this that we opened it up to the whole community last time and this time. So thank you guys for being with us. Have a bossy week, and we'll see you guys next time.